Guys having me. Thanks for the introduction, Aztec. And yeah, good to meet you all and see where you come from. And great introduction, John, with the need to run to keep up. I think that's a very good metaphor. So I want to share two things today. Let me see. You can see my presentation. Let me just do one thing. Share. Okay. Yeah, my name is Björn. I was born in Romania, but I'm not German, but I'm actually not. Living in Barcelona now, expat, so still trying to find the place. The last 4 years, I've built, tried various projects, some failed, some worked. The marketing agency is now almost 10 years old. It's called 22 Tribes. We do basically paid performance marketing, Google Ads, but also SEO internationally. And then in the last 4 years, I've been mainly focusing on the AI audio startup. So using voices, artificial voices to basically produce human-like speech. And every time, I'm a big fan of lean startup. Every time I've built or started one of the ideas, tried it out, I always tried to use lean startup. To be fair, it's sometimes very difficult if you're actually working in the business. So I've been consulting for many years. It's always easy to consult than actually to apply these things in your own business. And what I want to share is like basically how two things. So my marketing agency is disrupted as anybody else by companies like Algorithmic, my other company. So I'm in this kind of like schizophrenic situation that on one hand side, I'm building an AI company and I'm the business guy out of the 3 founders. And on the other hand side, my main older cash cow is still the older business, a traditional business, basically using Google to grow that. So I think that created very interesting perspective from both sides. Collecting business angel VC money with Algorithmic, scaling it quickly, and on the other hand side, kind of like selling hours for dollars. And so I split my presentation into both two. So it's called Lean AI because I want to, as mentioned, I want to talk in the second part actually about the basics of lean startup. And has been a while now since Eric Ries came up with it, but it's still fundamental, especially for everybody who's running a startup here, but probably even more for investors because whatever we do is actually an assumption. Also, your investment in startup is an assumption. So the less risk, the less assumption, the more you actually know. The less risky is the investment. And then on the other hand side, of course, AI, I want to talk about kind of like how we use it as a marketing agency, but also kind of like some of the tools. So I will share 10 tools more or less. I will kind of like make concrete examples with 3 of them. And I think the first one takes around 20 minutes, and we have a Q&A. You can drop any questions in the chat. I'll try to read it afterwards. Having said that, exactly. So that's a little bit background about myself. Instead of introducing myself, I thought we're going to start with the AI part first. So the first part of the AI, instead of me presenting, I thought actually use our tool to let me present. So the company is called Algorithmic Audio Stack, and exactly. So we're using basically, instead of going to a studio to find a voice actor and then send it to somebody else, we basically use AI to produce highly expressive emotional voices. And so now what I wanted to show you, I prepared some text. So for example, let's say this is my introduction text. So this is a text to audio solution. Let me just do something. So this would basically now, it's called Sonic Cell. This is basically text. Take the text, use a generative OpenAI prompt setup in the back to actually produce an audio, to rewrite the text in a way that it's an audio ad. So this is prompted for 30 seconds. And then it actually will apply, will find the right voice, and it will find the right audio. And it then basically will create a short thing. So this is a demo effect. I tried it before, it didn't work, of course. Let me see if this works. And then the second thing I want to show you while this is loading is voice cloning. So we do voice cloning. So which means I can clone my voice. And in fact, we have all our voices of all our employees cloned, and they're having fun asking for pay rises in my voice sometimes. Luckily, this voice is not perfect yet. But for example, this is a voice, hopefully that sounds like me.
Incoming message. Hey, Startup Investor Accelerator, good to meet you all. This is a cloned voice of Björn Ühss. I have been cloned with less than 20 minutes of data using our algorithmic voice cloner. Want to try it out yourself? Ping me.
Exactly. So what's I've been doing now, the AI model basically texts my voice that has been cloned in 20 minutes, and then it applies the audio and so on. And so basically this is used for digital avatar players. It is also, we did a mental health apps, and also for some other use case. So just some gimmicky to actually show you what can be done with 20 minutes. This is an ad builder. You can do the same thing. But basically rewriting an audio ad into multiple versions. You can change it. I really like the Morgan Freeman voice, which is not Morgan Freeman. Let's see, Josh, sound design. And then, so this is just to present you one of the 5 AI tools. And then basically create something like this, like a podcast. This is optimized for 30-second ads, but it can of course be used for podcast-like versions. Let's see.
We don't hear this one.
Okay. I need to share the thing probably. You don't hear the sound, no? Share computer sound. Can you hear it?
No. I don't. Does anyone hear?
Then one second. Maybe I need the rights. Share computer sound. Let me just stop sharing again because audio without sound is not that best. Let me have a look. Share sound. Let's see. Did you hear the previous one? Let's see.
Yeah.
Yes. Good. You should thrive. Life.
Okay.
A new way to manage.
Let's do this again, actually. Hey, New York, for example. So, for example, imagine like a Walmart is a good example. You have a Walmart and they need to have 10,000 stores. So they have 6,000 stores in the US, at least 10,000 products every day. Today, they want to get rid of the red wine. Basically, in New York, somewhere else in Michigan, they want to get rid of or promote another product. Basically, they can do this on scale, producing hundreds or even thousands of ads in a couple of seconds.
Hey, New York, balance is important in every.
Exactly. So this is just an example. And then what you can do, if you think of a Walmart or a store like this, you can do the same thing. You basically could automate the whole product category and basically create audio that automatically gets pushed into Spotify, and then in Spotify they target basically the right person. So they target people they think that they're vegan or vegetarian, for example. So this is like the veggie received. So I do the same thing and then I move on. Let me just do this quickly. See if this works. Exactly. So this is kind of like how voice AI is used to produce audio ads, podcasts. You might have seen Apple Apple has done 2 things. With the new Apple version, you can actually clone your voice safely on your iPhone, and then it will be able to respond to messages. It will be also used to read text in your voice, and it will also they also started using artificial voices to produce audiobooks instead of speakers. And this would then sound something like this.
And versatile vegan meal, look no further than Cauldron Vegan Middle Eastern Falafels. Made with chickpeas, coriander, and cumin, these tasty bites are high in fiber.
Exactly. So this is basically how you could use one of these ads automatically to produce, for example, an advertisement. And then now you can also do the prompts, for example, at fear of missing out, make it shorter, translate into Spanish. And of course, this is 100 times faster than hiring a voice actor, producing these things in weeks and so on. And the same thing also applies to publishers. So publishers now, what happens is all our all our screens are maxed out, so you can't really put more banners, more videos on YouTube, all the things, but people can still be attentive listening. So the same thing, what happens now is a lot of publishers basically turn their content into podcasts with the same concept.
Breaking news update on the U.S. debt ceiling talks. President Joe Biden and top Republican Kevin McCarthy held a productive meeting, but no deal.
Exactly. So these basically connect into the system, to our system. It can turn all articles into audio podcasts and then bring them into an audio player here or push them to things. So that's enough. So this for now, this is like, let me close this. This is basically tool number 1 out of 5, just with audio. I thought this might be making sense to use just to introduce the topic. So this is our own tool. Let me close some tabs here. No idea why this is still loading. Okay, perfect. So let me talk a little bit about kind of like what this actually meant. So we've seen over the last couple of, so I gave a presentation a while ago, but the trend is actually only accelerating. So I think the word disruption has been mentioned before, and also how it might affect some of you, and it definitely affect me as in my core business as a marketing agency. And so there have been, especially before and during COVID, especially in the digital online world, a lot of investments, and all these kind of like high spikes that is coming like down. You see a lot of layoffs. All the big companies have been laying off staff. I don't know. There's more and more bank runs. Not sure if Revolut will be the next. Let's see. And at the same time, you have this kind of like AI revolution coming up with, of course, ChatGPT being the biggest name in the market. So these are kind of like two counter trends. And then the question is, how does it actually affect me? How does it affect my business? How does it affect my job? How is it affecting marketing, or how does it affect growing a business? No matter if it's your business or if it's the business of your investment, and how can we use that? As mentioned, I run a marketing agency, so we do paid performance campaigns, so Google ads, LinkedIn ads, Instagram ads, and it's unheard of, or we couldn't really think like there wouldn't be a Google, but what would actually happen if there wouldn't be a Google, a Twitter, and Facebook? And that might sound like a ridiculous but big question, kind of like everyone's like kind of like laughing about. But the fact is if there's the amount of time I'm using ChatGPT compared to the typical search tools, probably Google mainly, is just increasing week over week. And if we move to a new channel, a new way of communicating, a new way of searching and using, not sure if it needs to be Bing or whatever, but if we chat to chatbots the whole day, there's no more SEO, there's no more ads, there's no Google, so there's no more content writer. So of course it affects my marketing business, and I see it, the customers we get in on the marketing side, and it's affecting marketing, but it's also affecting kind of like other sectors. And most of the jobs that a marketing agency is doing can be enhanced with ChatGPT like tools. Absolutely no kiddings. And we might have forgotten, because it has been a while that Google has been around now, but as some of you might remember, there was a time before Google, and before Google there was a time before the internet, and before the internet there was a time with Yellow Pages and so on. And so yes, times are also changing on a regular basis, and I'm quite sure that this is also like a massive paradigm shift we are going through right now. And we all got used to the series, to the Twitters now again, and the Googles, but really, like, if it's I remember Barcelona based most of the time, and when ChatGPT had its highlight being in one of these very cutre spelunken bars, and there was a guy briefing his very old guy briefing his clients about, in French, what ChatGPT is having a beer and smoking a cigarette. I'm like, okay, this has definitely arrived at each corner of the world. So And if it's really arriving everywhere, then it's really will change society. And of course now, why should we use Google if a chatbot like ChatGPT can actually make our life easier, has no ads, right? It doesn't need SEO, isn't spam, it's quick, it remembers things. So if the product is better, why should we spend time on Google, especially like now it's connected with the plugins, so you can search for flights, you can integrate it into Excel, you can really do so many things. There's more and more reasons not to spend time on a search engine. So that's of course a massive problem for Google, and also like a massive new era. And I'm always a big fan of trying to identify these shifts, and this is definitely something that is bigger than many of the trends before. Some people even compare it with the invention of the wheel. So it's going to be it's a big thing, and it's really affecting us on the different things. When kind of like Nokia and then Apple took over the operating system of mobile, that was really like mobile. First, there was a browser war going on. There was Netscape and then Chrome and everything, and then there was the mobile games with Nokia and Apple, and then Google really were like, well, we cannot let Apple eat our cake. What happens if all phones going to be on Apple and other devices? So let's create a operating system. Let's actually create our own mobile system, and that's how Android started. And a similar kind of like arms race we see again, right? We see Google, they suddenly getting very nervous with a startup that hasn't been that big a while ago, and now has the funding of the biggest basically competitor. So what does it really mean for us as for marketers? And this is a little bit focused on marketing as the marketing agency, but also marketing as sales. Like we all need to grow our careers, we need to grow our job, our companies, and we also need to grow our investments we're making. So it's important to know what changes in the way how we grow companies and how we grow actually ventures. And before kind of like the AI tools arrived, there were kind of like a couple of typical things a marketing agency would do. So just for us, for this example, because these are the three biggest channels, you would invest money in paid ads on LinkedIn. You would do paid ads in customers on LinkedIn, and basically drive traffic for either validation to see if an idea or a new business model works or product, or actually to grow and scale a company. And then you would do some SEO, and you would do some social media and so on. But all these things, so the jobs to be done, like what you need to do as a marketing agency for your customers, a long list from brainstorming, you need to come up with assumptions, then analyze the competitors, finding keywords, writing ad copy, translation, monitoring, and so on. All these things, everything that's in green, can be at least enhanced, if not at least 70% replaced or strongly optimized. So I think Richard or somebody mentioned before being interested to see how these tools actually can be used and leveraged to actually doing more, doing things better. And I will talk later about do we actually do the right thing? So that's more about the lean startup. But all these things, so 70% of 7 out of 10 items I brought here can be for sure be enhanced by AI. And to be fair, all these examples, I mainly use ChatGPT. I haven't been even using AI campaign analytics tools and so on. So I just want to highlight all these things that would change. And then for SEO, the same thing. All these things are the tasks we would do usually, and then everything that's green is basically very clearly affected, enhanced, or if not even at risk, and so on and so on. So to give an example, if I just run through quickly these the kind of like workflow, how these AI tools can be used to grow a business or venture, where it can be used, where it can enhance a human, or where you still need a smart human to actually do most of the job, or where actually it should be used for something else. And the first thing is, like, when we start, we always do assumptions. We do experiments, we define a strategy, and then we don't start anything without defining, like, well, what is actually the assumption behind it? Even for big companies, especially big companies that want to build stuff, we always start with experiment. And this, I will show an example later on, and ChatGPT can help with this, but somebody needs to do the thinking, somebody needs to use the tools, and somebody actually need to do the translation of what a customer wants, where you want to get, and set it up. So this is on the experiment side, we are good and we are safe. Brainstorming ideas, keywords, that's something very, very quickly that can be actually already enhanced. So now as an agency, when we brainstorm keywords, of course, we're using ChatGPT and other tools to do that. Here, a typical example, like, I don't know, dog training, it definitely helps you to speed things up, make things faster, come up with keywords, for example. So human plus AI, very, very powerful. Should you use it? Absolutely. Keywords and so on, extracting keywords from the text, of course, why not? Why should you do it if you can use a tool for that? Then usually you need to summarize, like finding the keywords that are most relevant for your brand, that are selling, that are interest, that are less important. We've been doing that with some other tools. ChatGPT can do it. There's better tools for that. All these features now get integrated anyway into the baseline of tools. But you can use it for anything text-based. The limitation really is how good you or our question, so our prompt, can be. So understanding the prompt and getting really good in prompts is actually something very, very important. It is a skill, and it's like knowing how to use an Excel formula or not. So really, like, using prompts in the right way, the skill is a skill to have. Then we usually would analyze what's going on in competitor. There you have the tool. So this human intelligence. You can throw ChatGPT a massive CSV file, tables and everything, and it will actually analyze it. You will still need to map it and what it actually means. You need to check the things. Anything writing, of course, it feels very good. It makes up a lot of stuff, as you know. I know you all tried it. But yeah, it's great. It's a great tool. We do not use AI to create content for SEO. We do not believe that will be a long-term strategy. Anything that is easy to create, Google will penalize or not incentivize. So we use it for anything drafting and ideas, but we don't use it actually to create content, and we do not suggest our customers to do it. But yeah, anything writing, of course, it's massive. Other tools I can recommend if you want to think of anything. Writing assistant is Jasper is big. They also run on OpenAI, but they're much better in marketing it, actually. So that's where you can do from blog posts to ads. You can really have a big variety of tools. Copy AI, Write Sonic, and then a couple of others. Don't get overwhelmed with all these things. It's usually enough if you do use one, whatever makes more sense. We do write a lot of content, so we use a lot of these tools. If content is not your game, don't really worry about it. You don't need to catch up with everything. All of you that work in sales or have some kind of outreach game on, of course, you can and you should test different things, from email subject line to copy to email sequences. So all these things are definitely use cases that will be 10x at least easier, faster than just making them up yourself. Exactly, and so on and so on. And of course, you've seen what Google announced now. You can basically let the Gmail type these things for you. So of course, these things become mainstream, so you don't need a tool, but it's going to be part of our day-to-day life. I'm going to show you later in a second a website tool, but also presentation tool that creates presentations or websites in 30 seconds. It's not Durable, but Durable is a good website for that. as an agency, so we focus a lot on helping kind of like scale ups, also startups earlier, and also corporates to test new ideas. And go-to-market testing was always something that basically where speed is the main value. If I can spin out a website with an ad in one day instead of a month or in a week, of course that gives me completely new ways to experiment and run experiments and do A/B testing. So this is something very, very powerful. Ads, have your ad idea, of course, best place to go is Mid-Journey, place to be for anything image related. These things will be these things are already incredibly good. I think in 3 to 6 months we will see actually video generation. You prompt it and then it will actually create a video based on you as you want it. These things really in test, some hacking together, but these things will be getting very, very quick. Storyboarding, so we use when we present ideas to customers, we use of course, before you had presentations and so on, we do actually mood boards now. So we use these things to storyboard ideas, to explain how the campaign can be like. This is massively better. There's still a lot of AI artifacts in these things, but they will just get as good as other things. And then if you run or invest in a fashion brand, for example, e-commerce, of course, you need pictures, you need images. You need to cut, reformat pictures for any e-commerce business. So if you invested in any e-commerce business, image AI is very, very powerful. You have now digital human deep agencies. Actually, this one is called Deep Agency. So if you go to Deep Agency, you can actually hire a fully synthetic model and dress that with your e-commerce products. So very, very a lot happening. Of course, all these things are massively disruptive as my voice technology is massively disruptive for voice actors. Image AI is massively disruptive for photography, and these deep agencies, of course, for actors. So we'll see a lot of things happening, and we really need to find a way as society to make this shift and use this in a positive way, because Cambridge Analytica has been massive. They probably led to one of the reasons why probably Brexit was able to happen, and that was basically just it was basically just smart Facebook ads targeting the different voting segments. So, but if you have a powerful image or voice AI creating fake deep images like this, of course, it's going to be very, very difficult to know what is fake, what is true, and we need to be very, very conscious and aware of what that means. And then, as every good tool with all the AI tools out there, it's not doing the job for you. These tools are fantastic to get started, to get momentum, but you still need somebody actually to do the work. Of course, you might need to have less people do the work, or the same amount of people can do 10 times the work, but you still need humans to basically do the work and having the time and having the focus. So all these things you basically need to still need to do. So tool number 2, I want to show, it's all good to make a little break every 10 minutes, otherwise I'm gonna lose most of you. So this is, there's 2 tools. This tool is called Colossian. It's a moderator, it's an AI moderator. So if you, for example, we have a lot of presentations to do for customers in multiple languages. So instead of kind of like recording a Loom video, what we're doing now is basically using, this is just demo, using basically AI presenters to then walk through the results. And the good thing is you can actually completely templatize that. So then you just change the name, you change the result for each customer. And recording is very hard. Recording is hard. It doesn't matter if it's a senior, an intern, or being in front of a camera is very hard. So these tools really make these things faster. Let's see. So this is Colossian.
Lean Startup is a methodology for developing businesses and products, emphasizing iterative experimentation, customer feedback, and rapid prototyping.
So you see they digitize the moderator. You can also digitize yourself. It's a little bit more expensive, but these things have evolved a lot. When we started 4 years ago, we provided the voice cloning for a lot of these companies, and they've been very pixely, but now you can barely see it. The best one, the original one, actually they kind of made this big is Synthesia. So they're a very UK-based company. You will see it's much more advanced. You can actually notice if it's deepfake or not in on the lip line usually, but these things are incredibly professional.
Lean Startup.
Buffering.
Lean Startup is a methodology for developing businesses and products, emphasizing iterative experimentation, customer feedback, and rapid prototyping.
Exactly. So this is basically tool number two. It's focused. It's visual. It's visual AI. It's deepfake. You deepfake the moderator, and then you can upload the presentation. They will appear in the back, and then she talks about it. This is great for onboarding, e-learning. Very successful companies. Both there's a lot of Synthesia clones now, but this is good tools. And I think I almost so to wrap kind of like the AI part up now. So I don't want to overthrow you with hundreds of tools, because in the end these things can be very overwhelming. It's a little bit similar as during the COVID time, where people just like, oh, I just want to turn the news off and I can't follow everything. It's just focus on what really matters. And I feel it's the same thing currently. Too many WhatsApp groups and too many things, too many new tools happening. Things will continue to accelerate on an exponential rate, and we're not used to that as humans. So and even I run an AI startup, and I see how quickly the tech moves and everything, but it's important to stay focused on a couple of things. So you can take a picture, screenshot if you want, just having an overview, but I won't overwhelm you with a lot of stuff. My main suggestion is really like use one tool that's the most relevant to your core business, whatever you do day to day. If it's writing a lot of emails, find a way to optimize that 5-10% using a feature maybe there. If you write a lot of content, maybe find a tool on the content side. If it's some customer support, find a chat AI tool and so on. So whatever it is, try to focus on one tool of a choice. For sure, mandatory need to have tried and using ChatGPT. I always suggest you always say like, well, can you not Google that for me? I would say, now, well, haven't you ChatGPT this first? But yeah, and then the other one is like really let's be aware of what's going on in the news, on social media, on video, especially now with elections coming up. These things can be really manipulative. And the more automation AI can provide for us, the more human I think we need to be and use at our strength. So just don't get overwhelmed. Let's pick one tool that makes most sense, but at the same time, kind of like it's important to learn. And I think learning and adapting and it's something we need to improve as a skill, because automation will come through AI. So the only thing that's left for us is the human and the learn and the ability part. So that's why I want to talk more about the lean startup in the second thing. So I think that's it on first part. So I'm just gonna stop here. I talked for I think 30 minutes now. Just any questions, guys? Anything before I move into the lean startup part? See if there are any questions.
Thank you so much. So looking at the chat, I can see several comments. We have one from Richard. He's asking, can ChatGPT or other AI tools be used somehow to do an A/B testing? And then he continues explaining, perhaps based upon analytics of other websites or copy, this can be time consuming and even costly. So wondering if there is a way to fast track this.
So as I'm aware, you can You can give it 2 data sets after people clicked and did the A/B test, and it actually will tell you the results. So that's very powerful, the insights already. But it's not. I mean, it's not running tests itself at this stage. All those analytics and marketing tools like Facebook and actually the platform layers above them, they will have some kind of these things in. We use it for A/B testing in a way that we ask it to create multiple versions of things always, and for that it's quite useful. But we're still running campaigns. We're running more campaigns than ever per customer now that we can use these tools. I think we've become super efficient, but it cannot run. Yeah, it won't run it for you. There's this thing now. I think it's agents, kind of like agent GPT. It's basically the idea you have a little bit in Zapper.com. You have one job and another task and another task, and you stack them together, and then it does it all for you. So, for example, and I will show you in a second. For example, if you want to come up with a startup idea, you need to brainstorm ideas. You need to make a job post. You need to create a website. You need to create a logo. You need to do this, and this. So the agent GPT, kind of like, I'm not sure it's plugins or what the right word is, that the bots basically, they match all these steps to be and program or to automate all these things together. So it's basically, okay, build a startup, and then it does a brainstorming, it does all these things together. And of course, that's very advanced, but that's the way automation will go. And very soon we will tell it to do, I don't know, book a travel, and it will find a travel, create a list, pick a suggestion, book the flight, and so on and so on. So thanks, Richard, for the question.
So basically, step-by-step orders might be quite useful, as you were saying, coming up with prompts and detailed explanation of what we are looking for. There's another question. There's another question in the chat from John. He's saying that he's very interested in the process of building an automation that takes an outline and covers that to a blog plus image plus tweet plus YouTube short, and then builds a posting calendar, schedules the posts.
Yes, that's the advanced version. I'm showing this list here. I think this was done before the agent GPTs came out. I'm not sure it's here, but I think the name is agent GPT. Configure Autonomous AI agents. I think there's many now, but I think it would be agent GDP, and you would basically code things similar to your to those setups. So yeah, I haven't done those. I think my team is doing a lot internally. I'm not a developer, but you can do this. Look for agent GDPs, and there's a lot in that direction.
Cool, thanks. That was all the question. And I see that Tom has another question. His hand up. Maybe let's take that last question and move forward. Tom? Tommy?
Hi, Björn. Nice to meet you. I wanted to ask you a question. Just now you were talking a bit about like integrating AI text into Google Ads. I'm assuming mostly for search ads and so on and so forth. And as you guys use it to generate sort of variants and then upload them to yourselves, have you done any experimentation on using the Google Ads API to make the AI sort of change the ads themselves in real time, or any of those things so far? With any luck?
No, we haven't done it, and it's ironic, like I'm not operationally involved in my marketing agency, but I run the API AI company, so it would make a lot of sense to tell my AI guys to actually help the marketing agency to connect it, but we haven't we haven't done it. To be fair, like it's May now. I don't know when the whole thing kind of like got out, exploded, maybe October, November. Then everybody was tiptoeing around. I tried to establish processes to use tools where it actually makes sense, at the same time keeping people sane to not get super distracted, because that's also a risk. So we used it in our core processes. Haven't integrated it at that stage yet. I think we're quite advanced, but we haven't done any integration from on that side. To be fair, it's also like we work with really big customers as well in the US, and it's ridiculous sometimes to see like the level of a maturity in these campaigns. So bigger companies doesn't mean more mature. So sometimes these things are overkill already. But it makes a lot of sense for somebody like Glovo or anything that moves very quickly. Thanks for the question.
Thanks a lot.
Good question. November 30th. Yeah, awesome. Okay, anything? Let's see. Let me do one quick. Let me see this one. Any other questions? So let's see where we are here. So okay, so we talked algorithmic I showed, tool 1, synthese I showed, tool 2. Let me do one. How do we do this? Let me do one thing. So before I talk about lean startup, let me actually. So let's assume we want to build. Let's assume we want to build Tesla. So what I would do, and I talk about presentation later, but just step 1. So if I want to build a new company, and we're not working too much with new companies, but it makes sense. Let's say I want to work in a new company. Let's say Tesla is the name of that startup. The first thing I would do, so I'm wearing now my lean startup hat. So AI, I put it aside. We're using AI at Algorithmic, the voice company. I'm using AI in my marketing agency, but let's assume I'm wearing my lean startup consultant hat and helping companies to test ideas quicker. So the first thing we need to define, I would define, is basically, well, what is your problem? What's your customer? What's your problem? What's the solution? And as an investor, this is also something I ask. Well, what is because startup founders love to talk, but the only thing I'm interested in is like, who's your customer? What problem are you solving, and how are you going to solve it? So of course, you can use a large language model to do that. So define me the customer, define me the problem, define me the solution, and actually give me the risk assumption. So the first thing would be CPS, customer problem solution, and then we would go into risk assumption. I always, when we did ask startups, and this is a suggestion I would have for the investors here, but also for the startups, it's like, well, what is the last thing? Tell me about a couple of things you validated, or tell me a couple of things you thought were true but actually not true. Like, what are some assumptions? What are some assumptions you're testing? And by the founders giving you an answer on that, you will very quickly know how they run their business, if they're building first to validate, or if they're actually testing and validate first before they're building, which is still very rare, but this is how we should build a company. And this is also like how we should do the investment, always little by little. So then we have, close this here. So okay, so we have the customer problem, and now I have a company, right? What would the next thing I would need to do? Next thing I would need to do is basically, well, if this is my startup, I would need to find traffic. Where can I find traffic? Well, I could run Google Ads. I could easily find Google Ads by creating Google Ads, spending 250 euros are free anyway. The first 250 are on Google. So let me create some ads for my product, for my startup, for my idea, for my new business model, push it on Google, work with an agency, let me test it. So of course you would have this. Then I would create those Google ads needs to run somewhere. So those Google ads need to run in a region. So I need to actually know who would be a good customer segment for me. Because we don't want to spend all our budget on just testing. So when we do these campaigns, we always try to spend as little as we can. So most of the marketing agencies try to spend as much as they can, because we usually take a cut of 7 to 12% of any marketing campaign. We try to spend as little as we can to learn as much as we can. So it's important to know, like, what's the positioning and what is the thing. So let's say Tesla is my customer. I'm running Google Ads. I know the problem, and I know what's the ideal customer profile. Once I know who the ideal customer profile is, I can say, okay, early adopters are probably these. That's perfect. Let's just pick one. Let's say let's only target early adopters in environmental things. Let me actually create ads for these guys. So AI can't do it. That's my team will do that. Then my PPC team is running ads on Instagram, LinkedIn, or whatever it makes sense. We would create that copy quickly. We would use a basic image or anything that's quick, or use maybe AI to create an image. And then I would basically create we would create the ad. And then I would basically come up with a version 1 landing page, almost like an MVP landing page that explains what we have. I would connect the Google Ads to that landing page and trying to collect leads and actually see what is happening there. And then, yeah, there you go. You have your first leads. You're selling, you're buying stuff, getting leads before you actually build a product. And of course, if you want to get better in customer empathy, you can actually also, you should have understanding what are typical things. Previously, and we still do it, of course, we would talk to customers and understand this, but we can massively speed up the learning curve now by basically letting all this work be done for us and increasing the speed to learning by a factor of 10. So frequently asked questions are important, because when I now get leads from my Google Ads campaign on my website, which I just created with an AI tool, somebody will take these calls, and this will be then the customer, or we for the customer. They will ask us questions. So we need to know what the first question is going to be. We need to explain it and so on. And then it will continue and so on. The keywords, we basically would do the keywords, and then we would continue. But you see, in less than 3-5 minutes, I basically am able to come up with an idea that allows me to actually test, drive a new marketing campaign very, very quickly. We still need to set it up. You still need the agency, you still need the human, but it's massively faster than before. And these are the keywords we would target. So this was just an example, very, very quickly. What is it, like five minutes to basically. So this would have taken us 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, because the customer never comes back. Now I can do it basically if we are all in one room in one day. I can do this on a Monday. On a Friday, I get the results in. I can close my experiment sprint. I can tell you if this is working or not, and I can move to the next one. Cool. Lean startup. Let me actually do one more thing. So we still need a website. We haven't done a website yet. So those ads needs to go to a website. So now I have my text, right? I can have this text. Let's assume. So I'm part of this. So I'm part of some entrepreneurs. I'm part of this entrepreneurs organization. It's this Founders for Founders organization. And so yesterday I tried it. Yesterday I tried to create a website with gamma.app. So it created this thing very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. And I'm gonna rebuild this one. So let's see this one. And then I also I've done a web presentation as well. So this is the presentation, and I'm gonna rebuild this for you. The presentation about entrepreneurs organization, what it benefits, and it makes stuff up. It's very, very confident. It just makes stuff up instead of saying like, I don't know. But it's found stuff on Google. It puts the right things in. And for lean testing, I probably spend 1 day, and then there you go. You can do it. So let me do this right now. Let's do a guided presentation. What do we do? Website. Let's do website. Let's assume I want to build 22 tribes AI enabled, now let's say AI and marketing agency. Here we go. And you see, I don't even need to copy anything. It doesn't want anything. It just wants me to give it a prompt. And then it figures the rest out itself. So it only has 22 tribes AI enhanced marketing agency as a prompt. And now it tries to figure out what it actually is. I think it does a search. I think it's connected through the Bing API, searching what 22 tribes is. Let's see if it figures it out. I haven't tested this before. Yeah, and I think today, I'm not sure if that's true, but somebody told me that OpenAI was actually down, or too many Americans using it. So let's see. So Gamma, what's going on today? Yesterday it worked very quickly. Let's do it again. Maybe we need to let's find something easier. presentation. And okay, organization. Here we go. A showcase effect. Here we go. This is how it goes usually. So it creates an outline. You can actually say, who is it for? Qualifying, let's see, qualifying criteria. So membership is usually if you need to make at least $1 million turnover. If not, there's an accelerator program. I actually understood there's an EO accelerator program already. Crazy. So the original website, let me just show you. Entrepreneur organization. This is the Barcelona one. So this organization is like 16,000 founders. So you see, it has an accelerator here. So it has an accelerator. So if you make less than $1 million, you click on accelerator, and it actually understood that there's an accelerator program. So I didn't do this, and it understands that it runs a forum. So it actually searches the web. I click on it, and you're gonna see how much fun you're gonna have with this. What do we take? Let's take this one. Oh. Let's make it, here we go, green. Here we go, continue. Here we go. And it's not good enough for proper websites and so on. And of course, once everybody does it, everybody will recognize it. But it doesn't matter. I mean, everybody's using Wix or WordPress anyway. So here we go. So you see how it basically puts the whole OpenAI framework together with a typical website or presentation, and it basically creates this on the spot. It's a great tool to actually help you structure things. It's still very structured. It always does the same thing, but most people actually don't get shit done because they procrastinate. So it's important to have some support. Exactly while it's doing it. It doesn't like 22 tribes. Exactly. So let's see, it takes less than a minute to usually create it. Here we go. Of course, all images are basic. I think the images might be free pick. I know they're not AI created images yet. That would be probably too expensive. Here we go. So we've got a website of, got a basic website for basic ideas. It will take a couple of hours to adjust it, but it's a good start. There you go. Okay, any questions? Otherwise, I can talk a little bit about lean startup, because there's some work to do actually. So Gamma app is good. Durable is a good website. I think this one is doing a better job, to be fair. Okay.
Very interesting.
Yep.
Regarding questions, I have a question. So when you went to ChatGPT, you put the example of Tesla, and where asking questions about Tesla. But there's a lot of information about Tesla on the internet where probably ChatGPT can access and understand what the customer profile and so on. For someone that is yet coming up with their own startup idea and doesn't have much of the information available on the internet, how would they go through the same processes as you suggested about the startup that is non-existent yet?
Yeah, thanks for the question. You would do the same thing. ChatGPT actually, I don't think it would search it. How it works, it actually makes things up based on a statistical model, what it thinks it makes sense as the next word. But that's actually how we also speak as humans. So one good thing of that is the prompt engineering is the whole field in itself. And one good suggestion for that is always give it the prompt to actually imagine to be the person you actually would ask for advice. For example, for your question, I would probably say you assume you're a startup consultant, and yeah, and then basically you need to create a scenario. You would create a scenario, and then you would come up with something. Consultant, and you think I don't know. Okay, think 15 meter. Okay, this is quite an extreme test, but you basically would imagine, you would ask it to assume. You can always ask for assumptions, and it will come tell you anything. It doesn't mean it's true, but it actually helps to see the things. Yeah, of course, it will tell you just basic stuff like target market and so on. Yeah. Awesome. So let me talk a little bit part two, just quickly, because we don't have that much time. So I was talking about the AI element of things. I want to talk a little bit about the lean startup thing, because even if we have the best tools in the world to do great things, the question is, are we doing actually the right thing? So when you invest in startups or when you run a startup, it's very important to actually reflect, sit back and reflect. Is actually what we do is actually making sense to the market. It's actually like a demand. And so I'm a very big fan of working in sprints. And exactly so. So lean startup, I want to talk about three things quickly, basically what it is and what assumptions are and how you can run experiments as an example. So it's really like a baseline. So one question, maybe could you please type the following into the chat. What was your dream job as a kid when you were, let's say, 7 years old? What was your dream job as a kid when you were 7 years old? So maybe you can put it in the chat, please. So we have the inventor, the horse trainer, of course. We have jungle veterinarian. Okay, good old memories. Good to come getting these up, guys. Architect, fighter jet. Yes, good. Fighter jet, of course. With ice cream man with 7, the doctor. Yeah. Yuppie is a good one. With 7, clown. Good. So okay, so usually you get the PPPs. Yeah, you get some people want to be the pharaohs, some people want to be pilots, comes up as a guy, princesses as the girls, and politician. I want to become a politician. So I guess so. Jumi, I'm not sure. Are you a basketball player now? Nico is probably also not a pharaoh. I'm also not a politician yet. Still doing talks. That's almost the same. Ice cream man, not sure, Chris, if you're an ice cream man, and Ani, if you're a fighter pilot, and so on. But most of us probably, most of us are probably not now what they wanted to be when they were young, and that happens all the time, right? There's an idea, and then there's a reality. And this is just a fun exercise, but for our startups, it's the same thing. Most startups, when they start, want to do one thing and then become something completely different. When we invest in startups, we believe they're doing this thing, but the founder actually wants to build something completely different, and then they cross, and the future's looking different. So the hope is that it's actually more or less it's going to be successful, but most of the times our idea change. And in summary, if you only have 30 seconds of energy or battery left, it's basically, that's where lean come in. Basically, there's a reality of an idea, of an assumption. It's the blue line. This is what we believe it happens. And then there's the reality, the fact. And the gap between the idea, what we believe is true, what we think, and the reality is, it's actually not a conflict. It's actually creating waste, because if we invest in a startup believing they do A, but they do B, there's a gap, right? There's no overmatch. There's like inefficiencies. So lean is all about reducing this gap and making sure that what you believe is true is actually true. And we do that by running experiment and by validating things much faster. It's a big gap between me being a politician. I wanted to be a politician, right? It has its effect, but on a startup, if you build a business, if you want to do one thing and we're building one product, but the market actually wants to do something else, we're wasting our time, we're wasting our investors' money, and we actually just wasting our life, to be fair. So lean is really like to reduce these wasteful activities and close the gap of what we believe is true and what actually needs to be done versus the reality. It came from Eric Ries, American guy. He coached us me in 10 years ago for Intuit. So I kind of like got the lead startup back over there. He wrote the lead startup book, and then he wrote one more, the Startup Way, which is the same thing for corporates basically. And it's all about how to basically build things that actually make sense. And Segway. So who anybody tried a Segway? Good idea, bad idea. So we can be of different opinions, but a Segway basically, I'm not sure when you wrote it, but probably when you were a tourist, or the only time when we basically see Segways running around the city, if at all anymore, is maybe at the airport or maybe tourist groups. But even this completely got forbidden. So you basically don't see them anymore. And that is a pity, because when they started, the original idea was a genius idea, a fantastic idea. They wrote a massive business plan. They raised a lot of money. I think that was like, I don't know, maybe 50 million at that time. I don't remember now. They hired the best guys. They hired actually the CTO of Accenture. They built a fantastic product, exceptional product. Thousands of times every millisecond, this thing is actually calibrating. It was all over the news months and years in advance. They did a great PR plan. And still, you don't, and the vision, massive vision, right? The vision was this will completely transform the way how we move. So they've done everything right. They raised a lot of money, everything right, and still they failed. Still, there's no Segways in the street. Still, this idea kind of like went from massive to nada. So, and then a couple of years later, this guy comes along, a friend Justin Bieber, and he has something. Yes, it's like a something very, very similar. So 1 year later, he drives around on the thing, posts it on his Instagram account with his guys. Here, there's the video. And then it's a Segway, right? It's the same Segway in Mini, just somebody basically copying it, focusing on it, and yeah, and completely massive success, sold out for 6 months. So what is the difference between Segway working 10 years on this plan, getting up, and then basically not making it, versus kind of like this niche Segway 1 year later catching up super quickly, going through the roof for a while? And the difference is that Segway really focused on kind of like everybody. So it was like, okay, this would completely transform every short distance travel. And while the other one was like, no, we only sell something for the teens. They actually sent it to Justin Bieber probably for free or promote. They posted on the Instagram account, and it was only for the kiddies. Only for the kiddies, one very specific niche. So the main takeaway is like, when we start investing also when we build a company, a startup, or when you invest in a company, always let's ask them to be really specific, because we can't beat the big guys, but we can make one feature much better than any other feature. So to be really specific. And the question is like, how do we reduce this risk? So it shouldn't take us 10 years, and things don't take 10 years anymore to build a Segway, but still, like now with AI, it's not 10 years. It's also not a year. It's really like a month, a week, maybe. You've seen how quickly I came up with this idea of the Google Ads. It's really about reducing this time of learning, failing, experimenting to really make it much faster. And this is where AI is massively impactful, right? Instead of doing this one loop, trying to build everything, break it down, or ask your startups to break it down into pieces. If they build a feature, ask them, how can you make it faster? How can you make it smaller? How can you cut it down? And they will always be like, no, you need the billing, you need this. But no. What can you do to test it right now in the week instead of launching? And yeah, I mean, and AI is massively accelerating this whole the way what we can do. So if I can create a website in 30 seconds, then I better not be a basic web developer. And it's really about how we use the technology to actually learn faster and adapt. So it's very incredibly important to actually learn faster and to actually be adaptable, because with the new AI, there's a lot of there's really no time. There's how you guys said, you need to run to actually just stay ahead or just be on the same level. AI brings up new tools. I showed you 3, 4, 5 now. That's hundreds, thousands. It brings up new ideas, but it also brings up new competition, new startups. It also opens up new channels, right? When Google came out, it opened up a whole new sector of SEO, of PPC, of Google Ads, and so on, of writers. I'm sure these things, new jobs will open up with kind of like ChatGPT and so on to and AI, and also like how you build and what to build business model. But we need to lean in and we need to understand what it actually means for our business and how we can turn it around and how we can use it. And yeah, basically Lean Startup is about building something, not to build something, but only build the minimal viable product you need to actually learn what you believe you need to learn in order to validate your idea. So when you talk to your startup, your investees, I would always encourage to give them the book. They need to read it. It's Eric Ries was a developer himself, and he said, like, it's my fourth startup now. I put money in myself. I'm spending so many years, and the frustrating thing is it's not about me doing good code. The frustrating thing is doing good code for a product nobody needs. And that really is the worst thing, to do something really right, but doing actually the wrong thing. And that's why I'm so passionate about kind of like validating, because most of the time when we build companies or why startups actually fail, it's really all about that we're too far away from a customer, that we don't know what the market needs. We ran out of cash because nobody paid, because people only pay for what makes sense. So really getting closer to customer is so important. It's so hard. I know it's like a phrase, but it's so important to involve them in anything. Yesterday, I went to a contact and a kind of like customer, also investor now, and just ask him, okay, can you use the tool? Here's a new version of the tool. It's just a Figma. Just where would you click? Here's the tool. I put my login in and saw how he was using, and it's incredible what you learn. But you really need to be there. And of course, there's so many companies that have been there, that disappeared, that were fantastic, they disappeared. So I'm quite sure even Google is very, very scared now to disappear. All the big car companies, right? There's so many things that can really be transformed, because adaptation is not really like surviving of the strongest. We know that from Darwin. It's really surviving of the fittest, and fittest really means the most adapted to that situation. So if AI tools and ChatGPT is ruling the world, we better figure out a way to actually use that, make that work for us and with us. And there's always good examples for changes. So IBM, for example, has been the biggest computer hardware provider, massive machines and everything. But they've suffered a lot, like in the 80s and the 90s. And then this guy, Louis Gertner, he came in and he basically completely transformed it into a service business. So now, so I worked for IBM a couple of years, and IBM actually already then was the biggest consulting company in the world. And nobody knows, because everybody thinks they are a hardware company, but they're not. They transformed the business from one business model to the other. So it's a nice book who says elephant can't dance, how to change a massive ship. And then another one. So maybe you can put in the chat, any idea what Gucci's first business was? Type it in if you have any idea or any thought what Gucci's first product actually was. Because when Gucci started many, I think almost 100 years ago, there was World War One. So World War One happened, and they were actually, so the environment changes, right? Our environment is changing now. We have climate change, we have electromobility, we have AI, we have all these things going on in the world. So our environment is changing, which means our opportunities, our society, our opportunities and risk are also changing. And for Gucci, it was the same. So 100 years ago, before World War One, they actually were producing horse saddles to sort of ride a horse, and they ran what was it? And it basically ran out of leather, so they actually needed to change the business model, and then they basically changed to other products. So adapting because something needs to change, but that's not the best way. The best way is actually to realize something, to recognize there's a change, and proactively think of how we can use that. So that's always better to be ahead of the curve instead of the laggard. And Nintendo did a great job. So Nintendo actually started as a card game in Japan, and they realized, oh, there's computers coming and so on, and consoles. So they actually turned the card game into a console and really made use of it in a positive, proactive ways. So leveraging new tech. So this also that brings it back to the startups, is how can you actually, what startups actually build on or leverage and bet on a big market that can that it's changing. So what are the big trends? Podcasting was one of these things, right? What companies are betting on this change? Because if the market is growing, the startup will naturally grow. So that's, for us, this only has been the case with Algorithmic the last 18 months. So the first 4 years, I was like, oh, your voice are not good enough. Oh, your voice are not good enough. And then with ChatGPT, then you had crypto and you had NFT, and we didn't benefit from anything of that. But now with ChatGPT, it really massively pushed our business. It's really catapulted it because the market is changing. Everybody wants to use AI. Everybody can imagine it, and people know what will happen, and that it's not a linear transition, but it's an exponentially accelerating thing. And then I know Nokia is kind of like dead, alive, back, and so on, but they've done actually a very good job for many, many years transforming from I think they started as a platform, what is it, like how to say it, like a rain shoe. Sorry, my English is getting rusty now. A rain boot company producing rain boots to working on electricity cables to hardware, and then they became a mobile provider, and then they basically became this mobile phone company everybody knew. Of course, somebody else said it's not that safe. Anybody else came around building a better product with Apple, and they got completely swapped away. So disruption can come from any side, anytime, anywhere. And also your idea will change for sure. I mean, you might not remember, but when Facebook started, it was basically like a kind of like a Tinder thing, hot or not. And this was the first website. So yeah, you don't know what ideas will evolve. You also don't know the investments you're making, where they will end up. But importantly, it's important to find a way to invest in a smaller amount. That I know SIA is doing that in a stage-based, stage-gate, milestone-based in investing, to basically invest in plans that work instead of a big plan that is a great idea. Yeah, so that's the basically lean startup, meaning exactly that. Basically, it's a structured method, and then it's really about making use of new ideas and structuring the insights. So it's all about what does the market want, what does the customer want, and how do we actually can test that quickly. And Elmas never talks about lean startup, but I know everything he's doing is perfect example for lean startup. So he's not building a big rocket and that's it. No, he's blowing up rockets purposefully, because he's not building rockets to go somewhere, but he's building actually variations of rockets to actually learn something, which is very, very different, right? So the first thing they've done is basically validating de-risk his assumption. De-risk his assumption is always the one that can kill your business or really kill your business. And if you don't validate that, really nothing matters. And his biggest assumption was that we can make rockets reusable, because if that's the case, we can bring the cost down by a factor of 10. So the very first things were these small little rockets that basically prove they can go up and back. So that's basically safely without exploding. That was the first thing. They blew up, they validated it, they improved it, they made it better. Then basically, okay, we can assume that we can make the same rocket and bigger going up and so on. And then basically going further and further. So all these things are basically assumptions. The old business NASA would have done this completely different. They would build a big rocket, they would have done a computer analysis, and they would have built it different. But really the right way to do is to basically build it in iterative ways, to only do those things that are actually not wasteful. And one thing, startup, like what is a startup? It's sexy trending thing to be a startup, but it's actually luckily becoming a nice again to actually be profitable. But basically a startup means you have not figured you haven't figured all the questions out. You're in search mode, you're thinking, you're still need to figure a lot out. It's really like a mess, and it's really like in search mode. The more you figure out, the more things get established. And then an enterprise is exactly the opposite. Like you're all about optimizing. You might optimize the revenue or the Google campaigns or marketing campaigns for 1, 2, 3, profitability 3, 4, 5, 10%. But there's no chaos. It's all about stability. So a startup is really like an organization that is still figuring things out, searching for answer. And that's where this lean startup is right. Lean startup is not about optimization. Lean startup that's performance. Lean startup is all about doing things that you actually don't know are important. And to kind of like do that, it's really about the value. And the value you really find in three E's. The first one is empathy. Empathy is really understanding what does the customer actually need, what is the problem, and what does the market need. This can be enhanced by AI, but this is really something that will not go away. This is something becoming more and more important. The second thing is evidence, like what do we actually learn? This is very, very human on the human front as well. And the last one is experiments. How can we run these things? And of course, AI is basically can definitely help to run experiments faster, but you still need a human. You still need a human in the loop to do these things. So exactly. So whatever we do, no matter how good our AI tools are, they can help us do things quicker, but they can't us really help do things in a more empathic way. So it's really like understanding the customer. If I can spend 10 hours talking to customers, understanding and learning instead of writing website copy, I'm very gladly doing that. So I'm very happy with the tools AIs provide us, because I can spend time on more insightful, meaningful things for my company. So that's it. I think I can wrap it up. So summary of the lean startup, part 2 is basically always be aware what is actually an assumption, what you believe, what you think, and what is actual reality. It's very, very important. If you go on holiday, you probably think, oh, it's going to be nice weather, it's going to be a nice beach, you're going to have a good time. But reality oftentimes is actually going to hate it, you're going to be in a different way, or it's going to turn out differently. So there's assumptions in everything we do. And assumptions in building a business, of course, are very important to get right. And assumptions for us as investors, investing in companies is even more important. We can't get it right, so adapting, iterating, failing, trying is key. And we need to get there. We get there faster the more we focus on the customer, and all these things are basically, out of the building, you will not learn anything being in the building. So I have a presentation for 15 hours, but I will actually stop here to see if I have some more questions. So I hope that gave some overview of AI, how we use it, a lean startup, why it's still important, and how you can combine both things to do better investments and better startup building. Hey guys, any questions? Thanks so much for listening for 80 minutes.